Whatever the case may be regarding Kermit the Frog's Jewish identity, I think we can all relate to his motto, that it ain't easy being green. Because we feel the same way. Sometimes. It ain't easy being Jewish. On the one hand, we want to have a fulfilling life of spirituality, understanding ourselves, of learning about big ideas, about stepping away from the daily grind of BBMs and text messages and phone calls to keep Shabbos. On the other hand, we live in the world and we want to live in the world. And we want to work and we want to go to class and we want to relate to friends who are not necessarily on the same page as us. And we find ourselves in this kind of amphibian life, living in two worlds. So this sentiment, I think it's important to know, this sentiment that it ain't easy being Jewish is actually part of an anti-Semitic campaign that dates back as long as there have been Jews. We're all aware of Nazi propaganda, especially in the early stages of the Holocaust, to dehumanize us, to make us seem like vermin, like animals, like an octopus taking over the world, or a spider spreading out its web. But actually, the ancient Egyptian campaign focused on something else. It focused on the fact that the Jews are always talking and schmoozing and talking and schmoozing about highfalutin ideas, ethical discussions. It's just, they're never satisfied with just being present in the moment with what they're doing over here in the physical world. I guess this really got on the nerves of people who so can't imagine a world different from the physical world that they embalm themselves so they can preserve their physical bodies after death. And they build these elaborate pyramids so they can take all their stuff with them to the next world. We see this right from the first conversation that Moses has with Pharaoh. He demands for the Jewish people to be let go. You know what Pharaoh's response is? He says these Jews have way too much time on their hands if they're thinking about all this new age fluffy spiritual stuff. They're becoming lax. That is why they are crying out, "Let us go bring offerings to our God." Make the work heavier upon the men, and they will busy themselves with it, and not busy themselves with words of falsehood. The Zohar says that the Egyptians used to call us frogs, always croaking about things that they couldn't decipher. And when Hashem brings a plague on the Egyptians, it's not a plague of snakes, or scorpions, or earthworms, but frogs. And what drove them to their wits' end was the croaking. Pharaoh comes and begs Moses to tell him to stop the croaking. And it's amazing. The thing they hated about us the most is the thing that makes being Jewish so amazing. That we live in two worlds, and we can relate those two worlds. Because everyone knows that a person who doesn't study about the world can't say so much about it. And on the flip side, a scientist who's just studying about science has very little he can communicate to the outside world. Only a person who's able to transcend both, who's able to live in the laboratory and in the outside world, can communicate, can express the beauty of the world. Think about the animals that live in two worlds. Frogs, birds, dolphins. They all sing for the sake of singing. That's what they're singing about, that they live in both worlds. The word in Hebrew for frog, tzvardeya, is a compound of tzipor, deya, a knowing bird, because a frog, more than a bird, knows and connects the two worlds it lives in, of water and land. Viktor Frankl famously writes that he is a psychologist witnessing the concentration camps of the ones who were able to survive, were able to live in their hearts beyond the concentration camp, in a world of meaning that they could share with one another. This sharing, this is the song of the Jewish people. This is what allows us to survive, and this is what allows us to thrive. Good Shabbos.